And a good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday morning. I'm John Mayer.
And I'm Lily Taylor. We'll get to our top stories in a moment. Brianna Chavez is off today, so John has a look at our forecast this morning.
Yeah, and it has been sort of a busy start to the day, at least in one regard. The winds have been picking up so far this morning. We've seen some issues when it comes to a handful of power outages in Eugene. No confirmation that that's weather related, but with the sort of gustier winds we are seeing, don't be surprised if we do get some power outages here moving forward, especially just given what we're going to get. I realize right now it looks a little bizarre. We've got clear skies out there. I mean, compared to where we were 24 hours ago, a bit of a change. The wet weather that was kind of wrapping up for us. The issue, though, visibility. We do have some fog cover in parts. It's not as if this is across the board a clean sweep. I mean, you look outside over by the Hyatt Center. Clearly, we don't have much in the way of fog developing for us. But a little further north, you start to see some of that patchy fog making an impact. But it's those low clouds that we're getting right now. It's just a matter of time, though, before the high clouds start to move in from the coast, and in comes the wet weather. Temperatures in the 40s up and down the I-5 corridor, lower 50s further down to the south. But I'll tell you, this is going to be another wet day moving forward. We'll get into more on when the rain arrives, how long it'll last. That's all coming up.
LSB Live is sponsored by Alpha Towing and Recovery.
But right now, we're going to go ahead and take a peek outdoors with our live shop buddy. He's keeping an eye on how things have been developing for us so far this morning on the roads. And you can see that right there, kind of that early morning fog, sort of wispy off on the horizon. And that is something that we'll continue to see off and on through the rest of these early morning hours. Right now, though, thankfully, we're not seeing any major issues on a widespread basis. But our live shop buddy actually near one reported accident from just about 10 minutes ago over on Beltline, one of the ramps being impacted. A slight delay there, something to keep in the back of your mind before you head out the door. Thankfully, no major slowdowns, though, on a widespread basis, but we'll continue to keep track of how those roads develop. And bear in mind, with wet weather on the way, could be a very different outlook heading into the afternoon. Meanwhile, protests continuing outside of the ICE facility in southern Portland.
This comes as a federal judge will hear arguments over whether to allow or block the deployment of 200 National Guard troops to Portland.
And the state arguing the military is barred from interfering with civilian law enforcement. President Trump's administration saying the deployment intended to protect ICE agents and federal property.
Victor Park from our Portland sister station spoke to residents living near the facility.
For the third day, protesters gathered outside the ICE facility in South Portland, angry with President Trump's decision to call in troops to protect the building. People at this apartment complex have had a front row view.
It's been noisy with the helicopters.
When you have 100 people out here, my girlfriend here is afraid to come outside.
This has been the sight and sound around the Portland ICE facility. The Oregon National Guard says troops could be stationed at the facility as early as Thursday. Those living here are split.
Thankfully, Trump's sending in the National Guard. Absolutely want that. Yeah, they can't get here soon enough.
I mean, if it wasn't for protesters like that during the civil rights movement, I wouldn't have the life I have today.
Portland Police Chief Bob Day says police took action Sunday night when a fight broke out between opposing groups.
We are down there, we are paying attention, we are engaged.
A federal judge ordered a hearing on the request for a temporary restraining order on Friday. It's part of a lawsuit filed by the state of Oregon and the city of Portland to stop the deployment, which cites California's case against the Trump administration over use of the Guard. A judge ruled against the administration in that case. The Trump administration argues that this case is different and much more limited in scope. But others like LaShonda Shavers believe sending troops will only make matters worse.
So I'm pissed that this is about to happen because it's ridiculous. If the president actually had been out here and see what's really going on, I think maybe he would change his mind or change what he's saying.
That was Victor Park reporting. There are new developments in Oregon and Portland joint lawsuit, which challenges the deployment of National Guard troops to the city's ICE facility.
Just yesterday, the judge telling federal attorneys they have to respond in writing by noon on Thursday. Then both sides get a chance to argue in court Friday morning. Attorneys for Oregon and Portland asking the judge to schedule the hearing ASAP. Meanwhile, one attorney from the U.S. Department of Justice downplaying the deployment. One of the attorneys representing President Trump and other federal officials, that's Christopher Edelman, telling the judge that the situation, quote, is not an emergency. He also called the deployment a, quote, very small federalization that is, quote, very limited in nature. Edelman also saying that the deployment is different from Trump's deployment of troops to Los Angeles, which was deemed illegal by a judge there earlier in the month.
The Oregon National Guard confirming they have received a notice of activation through a memorandum from Governor Kotek's office from the Secretary of Defense, calling the federal activation of 200 of its service members. Saying in a statement to our newsroom, the 200 service members called to federal duty will be taking orders from U.S. Northcom and not from our Oregon National Guard chain of command. All of our other service members who are not part of the 200 will continue to follow orders from our Adjutant General and the Governor. The Oregon National Guard says National Guard personnel from other states is a possibility, but it's unlikely.
Now, we also asked some residents about that ongoing situation in Portland, including some U of O students from the city. They offered some firsthand insight into Portland's safety.
Haven't seen anything too crazy or violent. I just hear about it mostly, but in downtown, you would, when you hear something, someone say something, you'd be like, yeah, you know, it seems normal. It seems Portland. Even though it shouldn't be normal, it is. It's just downtown Portland.
That's not going to help anything. I see more homeless people on the streets than I do see just like people on the streets. The National Guard, they're not going to do anything. What are they supposed to do?
And we also asked some local protesters what the deployment in Portland would mean for efforts moving forward, especially if similar deployments were to happen in Eugene.
If the National Guard were to come to Eugene, I genuinely think at first people would be too scared to go out and actually protest. Their goal should be de-escalation and not escalation. And we've seen this happen, you know, throughout like the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. We've seen this happen even dating as far back as Stonewall. We've seen this happen.
Other protesters, however, encouraging people not to back down, saying that staying inside would do greater harm than being active in the streets.
The more scary thing in the long run is doing nothing. That these tactics rely on people demobilizing. The threats to send the military into Portland and Oregon and claiming that Portland is a war zone and things like this. These are, you know, scary, obviously, for the people there.
Protesters telling us they will continue with their weekly anti-ICE protests in front of the Eugene Federal Building again later.